I Wear My Sunglasses at Night. Written by Paul Aster Cohen. Narrated by Nicky. Chapter 7. Shecky watched through the half-open backseat window as Nicky and the dwarf walked into Home Depot. He circled around on the back seat a few times before settling into the warm sunlight streaming in through the back windshield. It had been a long few weeks for the lazy coyote who lost his pack a long time ago. He was a strong pup. He always thought his father favored him over the rest of the pack, but after a hurricane ripped through the south, he was left not knowing if they abandoned him or simply died in the storm. He spent weeks trying to recover their scent, pacing over and over the same trails, avoiding humans as much as possible. On warm days, he'd lay in the sun and think about his pack, wonder if they were alive, and if so, where they could have gone off to. Shecky eventually found himself far from home. The nights were colder than usual, and he was half-starved when he stumbled upon the dwarf. The coyote couldn't find shelter from the cold, but saw a small figure trudging through the cold wind, blowing through the trees in some nearby woods. He followed the figure, hoping he'd discard scraps of food, or possibly keel over and die. He wasn't one for eating humans, but at this point, he figured he'd eat anything. Shecky's senses were failing from the lack of nutrition, and he lost sight of the man. At that point, his keen smelling senses had left him too. He was now starving to death. His paws were dragging on the cold, hard dirt. His tongue was hanging out of his mouth. His blinks were getting longer and longer. Then his eyes refused to open. "Here you go, boy," a voice said. Shecky slowly bit down on some meat and opened his eyes. "You'll be okay now. Take it easy." The coyote was inside a shack made of discarded wood and rusty tin next to a crackling fire. The dwarf would sit and talk to the coyote about what his mission was, never mentioning his prior tracker wolf, and then trained Shecky to track, which he picked up quick. And now there they were, working, hunting, tracking. The coyote even enjoyed. His mind snapped clear. Shecky's nose twitched. The air. There was something in the air. His head bolted up from the back seat as his eyes scoured over the entire parking lot. It was a smell he had grown accustomed to over the course of his short tenure with the dwarf. The scent of the enemy lingered heavy in the air. It was the scent of death. Shecky was on his paws, his nails digging into the tattered, upholstered back seat. He turned back and forth, his snout taking in the stream of air spilling through the cracked windows, trying to pinpoint the smell. And he did. But the smell grew closer and closer. The coyote looked out the front windshield, and there it was, the source of the grotesque smell of rotten meat, and it was flying through the parking lot towards him. His eyes widened as a shape that looked like a man, limbs flailing, smashed onto the asphalt with a crimson thud and slid across the parking lot, stopping right in front of the Toyota. Shecky didn't know if he should growl, bark, or just lay back down, because whoever did that could surely handle their own. Besides, the coyote was stuffed and tired, and the sunlight felt good against his dirty gray fur. The thing was obviously dead, right? Shecky knew he should have known better as the car rocked, and he saw the hand of the flying creep trying to get to his feet. The coyote let out a sigh, carefully leapt to the front seat, and saw something he didn't want to see.